Is a knife maker an artist? Does anybody really care? Hey, it's Walter Sorrells back with another Knife Making Friday 5. So I've been thinking about this question of art and knife making because I've been working on these things lately on my Tormach. This right here is a fixture plate. So in order to make knives on a CNC machine like this, or any kind of mill actually, one of the most important things, and it actually takes more time often than cutting the part, is figuring out ways to fixture the material, meaning how to attach it physically to the mill so that the cutters can move around and shape the part. It really does not look like art. You're not going to hang this sucker on the wall. It's a whole bunch of drilled and tapped holes in an aluminum plate. But if I don't do these, I'm not going to be able to make knives. So this kind of raised a question in my mind, or a thought in my mind. A lot of you guys probably know that I actually started my career as a writer and didn't become a knife maker until 15, 18 years ago, when I was in my, I guess, late 30s. And so, I sort of started my knife making from the perspective of, I guess you'd say, an artist. I don't want to sound pretentious about it. But, I'm always kind of thinking about it, what I'm doing in terms of the artistry of what I do. And, I think this stuff looks like engineering, or it looks like a craft, or it looks like something you do at a factory. And legitimately, I think some people would say, well, is this really part of the same kind of process of making custom swords and knives like you've been doing for years? Here's kind of my response on that. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what it takes to create art. People tend to think that art is created by, standing up on a mountaintop and being struck by the lightning bolt of inspiration. So this was kind of an interesting thing that happened to me many, many times in my writing career. Was somebody would come to me and say, "I got this great idea for a book, and I want to know if you're interested in working with me on it. I'm not going to tell you everything about it just yet, because, it's a really good idea and I don't want anybody to steal it." And the thing that I always said to people is, look, there's no writer on the planet who doesn't have enough ideas already to write for the rest of their lives. Ideas are cheap. They're just a dime a dozen. Yeah, some ideas are better than others, but at the end of the day, it's all about execution. It's not about the idea. So there's a part of the job that's coming up with that fresh new idea, a new idea for a lock mechanism, or a blade shape nobody's thought of before. And then there's another part of it that's just execution, it's skills, it's knowledge of materials. And you have to have both. In order to produce art, you have to have those ideas. And I think most people have creative ideas, but you also have to have execution. I've known a lot of people over the years who were artistic people in this sense. They had lots of ideas, and there were things that they always were working on. They were always telling you about this great idea for a book they had, or this new woodworking project, or something they're painting, or whatever it might be. And always that fresh idea sounded really great, but then you talk to them 3 months later and they were on to something else, and they never finished anything. And I felt like there were kind of two components to that. There are some people who are just lazy, but it really wasn't that with most people. I think a lot of people, they got so deep into the feeling of what it was like to have that idea and be excited about it, that once it started coming down to details, to stuff like this, drilling holes in a piece of aluminum, it stopped being so fresh and exciting. I mean, this little piece of aluminum right here probably took me 2 days to do. designing it in Fusion 360, trying it out here. I'm just learning this mill, so I had to screw up a few times. There are just so many little pieces and parts to it to produce this one thing. Now it's ready, it's done, it's going to work. But it took me a whole lot of very technical factory floor type work to get this thing, to be a functional part. And that's only one little stair step of a very long set of stairs that are going to be required before I can make the first knife on here. And, for me, that whole process is actually what art's really all about. It's sweating all these little details, showing up every day, carving off that next little challenge, accomplishing that little challenge, and moving on to the next thing. A lot of it has to do with psychologically situating yourself so that you understand making art is about making fixture plates. I don't care whether you're a painter, a musician, whatever it might be. There's all this practice and all these details and all this undergirding that has to be done in order to produce that cool song, that painting, that knife. If you're on the bottom stairs of the knife making journey, just remember, I don't care how high up the stairs you see people, Chris Reeve or, all these famous knife makers, they're still in the same position as you. There's always one more step, making fixture plates, carving off that little job that you can accomplish in a day, 2 days, 5 days, whatever it might be, and then you finish this thing and you're moving on to the next challenge. Hey, I hope you're enjoying my new Friday 5 series. Leave some feedback. Let me know what you think. Don't forget Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Also, support the channel on Patreon if you like what you see here. Thanks, guys, and see you next Friday.